me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to lockdown coverage week number 14 in the National Football League. The Oakland Raiders taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. In week number 14, huge playoff implications in this game. Both teams coming into the game at 6-6, tied atop the AFC West division along with the Los Angeles Chargers. Winner of this game would have first place to themselves. Again, Raiders looking to go for the season sweep over the Chiefs. Chiefs looking to get that season split and, more importantly, snap a nasty 5-game losing streak. And so this was a big one for the Chiefs as they had been struggling of late, looking to get back in the win column. So this was an important game for both teams involved. The Raiders, I told you last week, in watching the Raiders beat the Giants, that's not a good football team. They're just not the same team. They're a shell of themselves. I heard a lot of Raiders fans say, well, Crabtree was out. Cooper was out. That's why we look that way. No, you haven't looked good for the vast majority of this season. Since the Redskins game, you've been exposed. And you know what this game looked a lot like? The Redskins game. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Raiders. But this game went exactly the way I expected it to. The Chiefs were the more hungry and desperate football team. They looked like a team that hadn't won in over a month. They looked like a team that knew they had to win this game or else. And look, they could be playing for the job of Andy Reid right now. If this team doesn't win this division, because this is a one-bid division, whoever wins this division is getting in, and the teams that don't aren't getting in the postseason, in my mind. Now, things could change, but I don't see the Chiefs nor the Chargers beating out, say, Baltimore or Buffalo to get into the postseason when it's all said and done. So for all intents and purposes, you're playing for your playoff life. And I think if the Chiefs blow that 5-0 start and that 6-1 start to the season, I think that Andy Reid's job could essentially be on the line. And so they're playing for not only their jobs in their season, but potentially their head coach's job. So big game here. They were able to get it done. They came out with a sense of urgency. Defensively, they got after Derek Carr. The Raiders offensively never looked like they were in sync until the game was pretty much done. You know, the game was no longer in the balance when the Raiders started scoring points. The only thing that I will say about the Chiefs offensively in this game is that they left a lot of points out there on the scoreboard, on the football field. They should have won this game scoring 38, possibly 40 points. I mean, there were opportunities galore, and they had to settle for field goal after field goal. Travis Kelce drops a third down pass that would have kept the drive alive. He had a touchdown brought back because of a penalty. They had to settle for a field goal on both of those drives. There's too many opportunities to blow this game out of the water and put the Raiders out of their misery, and you allowed them to at least be within striking distance because of your inability to score touchdowns. This looked a lot like the Chiefs' offense from last year, not the Chiefs' offense that started out this season like gangbusters and was putting up 40 points on everybody. This looked like the Chiefs' offense from last year that I said there's a ceiling on what this team can be because they struggle in the red zone, they don't score a lot of points, and they rely on their defense to make 24 points or 23 points or 20 points stick. Well, this defense isn't capable of doing that anymore. And granted, they shut down this Raiders offense for the vast majority of this game. Raiders aren't good on offense this season. They're just not. Derek Carr is the same quarterback. We'll talk about that when we get to the Raiders. This defense was better in this game, but they're still not a good defense. And I worry about them next week versus the Chargers. We're going to see just how good this defense is after getting this win. Maybe this is a confidence boost that they needed defensively, but we've watched them get torched defensively all year long. They could be in trouble next week against a Chargers team that's starting to hit their stride offensively at the right time of the year. But I mean, it was good to see this Chiefs offense move the football, and especially good to see Kareem Hunt over 100 yards rushing. To me, that's where they got lost. They got too cute on offense. They went away from the run game. Kareem Hunt was your catalyst early. I know we talked about Alex Smith and Tyreek Hill and the diversity of this offense and how they're doing all of these trick plays and all these gadget plays and all these formational shifts and the shovel passes. All that stuff is cute. And when it works, guys get credit for it, and it sounds good. It looks great, and it's fun. Okay, but when it stops working, you have to have a bread and butter. And your bread and butter earlier in the season was Kareem Hunt. I felt like you got away from that. I felt like you got away from Kareem Hunt's ability to wear down defenses, for him to get over 100 yards, for you to have that kind of balance. I felt like everything was being put on the shoulders of Alex Smith, and you were seeing this team crumble under the impetus of Alex Smith having to carry this team by himself, essentially. So it's good to see this team get back to the ground game. Good to see them have a semblance of balance in this football game. It was good to see the defense actually make some plays in this football game as they were able to jump out to a 26-0 lead before the Raiders were able to score 15 unanswered late to make it look interesting. But this was domination by the Chiefs from start to finish of this football game as they win, snap their losing streak, get to 7-6, and now set up an even bigger matchup next week at home versus the Chargers. Chargers already had lost to this Chiefs team, so the Chiefs doing the same thing the Raiders were looking to do in this game. That's go for the season sweep over a bitter rival that's going to be tied with you next week. So big win for the Chiefs. You're going to have an even bigger game next week. That's for the division right there. You sweep the Chargers, you win the division pretty much with 2 games left, up a game, and them needing to finish a game better than you, you'll be in the driver's seat where you want to be. You lose that game, you have the season split, but their divisional mark will probably end up being better than yours if they can sweep the Raiders at the end of the season. So you'll put yourself in a tough spot because you lost to the Raiders already. They haven't lost to the Raiders. If they beat you, they'll end up 5-1 in the division, or excuse me, they lost to the Broncos. So you might be able to still, it'll probably come down to a conference record and all of those things. Again, still a lot of football to be played, 3 games left, but you got to take care of that one next week at home versus the Chargers. It is imperative if you want to win the division. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, this looked like the Redskins game, reincarnated all over again. This team struggled offensively to have any semblance of continuity. Guys aren't on the same page. It's almost impossible to get Cooper involved right now. He's struggling this season. Crabtree not having his best season after starting out the season well. He's fallen off big time. The run game, which was solid in this game, just wasn't enough of it. Derek Carr, I've talked about this, had Raiders fans try to convince me otherwise. I've said this since he's come into the league. It was a problem in college. It remains a problem. He doesn't deal well with pressure. Okay, this goes back to Fresno State. He'll throw balls up for grabs. That interception when you were driving early in this game, backbreaker. Pressure in his face. Instead of him eating that football, he tries to throw it anyway. Arm gets hit. Ball goes sky high in the air, picked off by Terrence Mitchell. And that was the beginning of the end of this Raiders football team in this particular game. Those types of mistakes are backbreakers. And Derek Carr throwing the football down the field to no one, just really panicking under duress. It's what he's done throughout his career. He looks nothing like the guy that was shredding NFL defenses a year ago with the utmost confidence. Right now, he's a shell of himself, and I don't think this Raiders team is going to be able to rebound until the offseason. They're going to regroup, retool some things. Maybe you need a different offensive coordinator. I don't like getting rid of offensive coordinators after 1 year. It usually takes a year just to get comfortable with the verbiage and that play caller's mentality and things that they like to do. And it takes a play caller about a year to figure out his personnel and what works best in what situations, who we should be going to in certain situations, in situational football with my players. So I'd say you need to give everybody involved another shot next year, come back and maybe be better and more polished as a group. But right now they just don't have it on the offensive side of the football. That's been abundantly clear since week 3. They just have not been the same team. You go to the defensive side of the football, there's just not enough on defense. It just isn't. With the injuries to the cornerback position, there's just not enough on the defensive side. The linebacker position went into the season as a problem that you didn't address. You failed to address your linebacker woes in the offseason. Luckily, Navarro Bowman fell into your lap. He's been good for you, but you still need more help there. And the lack of pass rush outside of your 2 pass rushers, and I think Bruce Irvin's stats are going to look much better at the end of the season because of this game. I think he had 3 sacks in this game. But let's be honest, he's not getting enough pressure. Mack has had a down year. He got a sack in this game. I think that's 2 or 3 straight games for him. He's only at 8. Okay, this is a guy that last year, the year before, was pushing 20. And now he's barely looking to get to double digits this season. It's just not enough. This Raiders defense, not enough. Not enough turnovers. It was nice to see your safety get a pick, Carl Joseph, on an errant ball from Alex Smith. But it just hasn't been enough defensively from the Raiders this year. And you got gashed on the ground. Not enough interior presence. This is just a disappointing defense. You move on from Ken Norton. You bring in John Pagano, and it's the same thing. Now, I will say John Pagano has experience in this league as a coordinator. And to me, there was a play that was a microcosm of this Raiders team defensively. And Pagano, there was a shot of Pagano as the play was unfolding. There's a 3rd and 6, and Alex Smith checks it down to Albert Wilson short of the sticks, probably a 3-yard gain if the tackle is made. Albert Wilson is able to duck. All right, the Raiders defender, who has a good grasp of him, then slips off of Albert Wilson, who's able to push forward and pick up 5 additional yards in the first down. And you see John Pagano say, "God damn it, you had him. I had the right call. Make the tackle." And that's the Raiders defense in a nutshell. You make the right call, you put your players in a position to make the play, get off the field and force a punt, and they fail to do so. And this Raiders defense just simply not good enough. Really, this team simply not good enough. Even your best player on your team, arguably, in Marquette King, struggled mightily in this football game, punting the football. And so it was an all-around bad game for the Raiders as they lose 26-15, drop to 6-7, and for all intents and purposes, see their playoff hopes being dashed right before their very eyes. They're not a good football team. And I told you this when they won last week against the Giants. I said, you're not good enough to win this division. You're just not. And so they're probably going to finish out the season around 8-8, 7-9. I don't see them going 9-7. I don't see them running the table and getting to 9-7. They're a 6-10, 7-9, 8-8 ball club, and we'll see what they end up doing finishing out the season. As far as the Chiefs are concerned, they got a big one next week, just as big as this one was this week, even bigger next week versus the Chargers. That's who you got to worry about if you're looking to win this division. That's a huge game at Arrowhead next week as they get the win and move to 7-6. Let's get to any comments that may be out there, and there are none. So the Chiefs come away with the victory, a big one at that. We'll see if they're able to get an even bigger win next week at home versus the all of a sudden surging Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to do it for your man, Louie T. Remember, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here, one live feed at a time. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. I'll see you guys in a second. This is rapid fire. We're going and we're knocking them down. Boom, 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 boom. So don't you go anywhere. More lockdown coverage. Week 14, National Football League coming at you. I'll see you in a second.